Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, and we battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time, according to two film geeks from Wiltshire, England. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a review and subscribe. This week on the Sam Jackson and Hugh Jackman Obsessed podcast, as The Eternals is out on the big screens, we'll be having a look at our favourite comic book team films. And as ever, I am joined by Cyclops or Nightcrawler or whatever your favourite, whatever his favourite X-Men is. Mr. Boaz Dix, how are you, sir?
I am Boaz Man.
Boaz
Best
Man.
hero of them all. Boaz Man.
Cool.
Topical knowledge on comic books and movies.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm doing good, man. Although, actually, you are right, man, now that you said that. So many of our films have either Hugh Jackman or Samuel Jackson.
Yep.
So it's basically their show, this thing.
Should change the title.
Change the title. Jackson and Jackman Jerk.
Yeah. That is a good title.
And we're just masturbating the egos of these two amazing actors. They're just in everything.
All right, as you may already know by now, we have a Buy Me a Coffee account. So if you look in our show notes below, click the link. And if you want to say thank you or show your appreciation, click on the link and buy us a coffee. That would be amazing. What is your pick then, Mr. Encyclopedia Man, for comic book team films?
X2.
Nice.
The second X-Men film, yes.
Cool. Why did you pick this one?
I think we've referenced it several times every time we talk about like an X-Men movie. When we did, was it Days of Future Past and Logan? Like, I did always sort of mention X2. X2 is in my mind like either one of the best or the best, X-Men themed universe thing that I quite like.
Yeah.
And obviously has like huge nostalgic resonance in my childhood. I remember being hugely excited to watch this movie, and I was blown away when I watched it. I think it's kind of like an unappreciated like masterpiece. Well, for a superhero movie. But, and definitely for an X-Men movie.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's kind of why I picked it. I think when you say, and obviously I think most of the X-Men films are like okay to some being really bad, and this one just stands out. I think it's like ahead of the curve, and it kind of gets forgotten about.
Yeah, this is like one of the first DVDs I ever bought, I think. I remember one time I've seen it several times before, but one evening as a kid, I watched X-Men 2 on DVD, and then I literally immediately watched the audio commentary straight after.
Yeah, same. I've watched the audio comment. I think this was one of the first audio commentaries of any movie I've seen on DVD, where I was like, just whack on the audio commentary. Yeah. And I watched all the behind the scenes and everything. I love the DVD for this.
DVDs of that era were just so cool, just packed with so much random stuff.
Yeah.
Extras. So what happens in X2?
So a filler in of sort of the X-Men universe is there are mutants and there are humans. Mutants are this next step in human evolution. The X-Men are a superhero team of mutants to protect humans and mutant kind alike.
Yeah.
After the end of the first film, humanity, like the president and all that, they're a bit skittish about mutants. At the beginning of this film, that adds more fuel to the fire, where the president is almost assassinated by a mutant teleporter. So they have to try and find this teleport and work out. But it turns out this is all the clever plan of General William Stryker, a human military scientist who wants to eradicate mutant kind. So he uses this incident to further his agenda of capturing the X-Men and finding a way to kill all of the mutants. This forces like Magneto and his Brotherhood, the villains from the first film, to join forces with the X-Men to stop this conspiracy.
Nice. This is like a tie between Days of Future Past with me in quality of the X-Men films. I don't think I can separate them properly.
Yeah, I think I quite agree. I think they're very close in my estimation. And after this film, you had a lot of, okay to sort of like mediocre X-Men films. And then I think Days of Future Past, it took a while before the quality was like, oh man, this is kind of a return to form for Bryan Singer and stuff like that.
Because like they messed up Last Stand. That was a bit of a mess.
Yeah. And Origins
was
Wolverine.
Quite bad.
Yeah, that was just terrible.
Well, Deadpool, my God, what did they do to him?
Yeah, that was horrible.
First Class
was okay. Yeah. I liked it. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as like X2, but it's okay.
It's fine.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's fine. And then I think Days of Future Past, you're like, holy shit, this is like...
Yeah. And I kind of gave up on X-Men after that, really. I haven't seen Apocalypse. I've seen bits on TV and stuff, and I haven't really bothered with Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, I haven't seen Dark Phoenix either.
No.
But yeah, I think those two are just where it peaks. X2 is just phenomenal, and it took a while for it to get, that kind of level again, and it's just never sort of matched that.
Right, directing then for X2. The action scene where Stryker's men take over the school is great. Like, my favourite moment is when a special ops guy is trying to, like, stab Logan with a small knife. Then, shing! Yeah. Logan's claws are out, and he stabs the guy through the ribs really intensely. It's just a really great, introduction to Wolverine's action there. But there is a moment that feels a little dated to me, where Wolverine dives off the balcony and takes out a load of guys, but then they kind of cut all around it, which I don't think you would do today. It's still fairly effective, but I think if they didn't cut around it so much, it would have been a bit more effective. Plus, when Colossus says to Logan, I can help you, and then Wolverine says, help them, as they're going through the secret escape door. And I was like, no, let him help you. It would be awesome. Yeah. Colossus just threw two guys through a wall.
Yeah.
It would have been so cool to just have like a little like tag team cameo in that bit.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Mm-hmm. Have like a fastball special or whatever. Maybe he just didn't want to be upstaged. It's like, it's my film.
Yeah. Screw you. Go save the kids. Yeah, Let me take the bad guys.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I do think the assault on the school is an awesome scene. You've just got all of this stuff going on. It's phenomenal. I just remember it in the trailers and stuff. It just blew me away. And then watching it. But yeah, Colossus turning, Wolverine. I love where he goes like stealth on a bunch of soldiers, where it's like, be quiet, and he's just killing them like nothing. It's just an incredible, Or where they're knocking out the kids with the dart guns, and then that girl like just falls through the floorboards, and she's like going through them and walls and stuff. That was cool.
One of my favourite scenes is when they're all in like the X-Men jet, and there's two F-16 jets that tell them to land or lower their altitude. And they fall back, lock on missiles, and Storm creates like tornadoes to stop them, which is really like visually really cool. Then just before they stop the F-16s, one fires two missiles, and Jean Grey stops one, and the other explodes right next to the X-Jet, which makes a big hole. And Rogue flies out, and Nightcrawler teleports to save her. Then the X-Jet is like crashing to the ground, but Magneto saves them. I like it a lot because multiple mutants are all working together to create a really cool, cohesive action scene, and we're not focusing just on one X-Men character.
Exactly, yeah. I think that this film does it really well of like having the whole huge cast of characters, because it's not even just the core X-Men like the first film, but all of them, Magneto's Brotherhood. And just everybody does something really awesome. So obviously everybody's going to go, well, Wolverine's going to do awesome things because he did most of the awesome things in the first one, but they just make everybody do like cool things and team up together. And it's just, it is spectacular. And I think, you're right. That jet scene was amazing because, you have Storm just doing some incredible stuff, Jean Grey and Nightcrawler and Magneto.
And it's all pretty seamless as well.
It is all pretty seamless, yeah. It all makes sense. You forgot to mention, actually, with the Storm thing, I love that, and I could never get... Like, she calls down, like, dozens of tornadoes for the jets. And I even love that scene where Wolverine's like, "Have we got any weapons in this heap?" And she just turns around and her eyes are white. You're like, she is the weapon. Yeah. But I like all the tornadoes are coming down, and she smashes a jet with 2 tornadoes, like one coming from the bottom and one coming from the top. I've never seen anything like that since, like a sandwich tornado. I thought, man, that's cool.
They incorporate Storm's action really well. You know, there's that bit where she uses lightning to get Nightcrawler off from the rafters in the church. That was a nice touch there. And the way she freezes the room in the second Cerebro room to stop
Jason.
Yeah, Jason. Yeah. Not Freddy.
Yeah, not Freddy. Although he is more like Freddy than he is Jason. He can enter your head and fuck with your mind, so he's more like Freddy.
Yeah. I like the fight between Wolverine and Yuriko, played by Kelly Hu. The fight is really well choreographed, really smooth and stabby. And I think my favourite moment is when Wolverine stabs her with both claws in her stomach, and you discover she can heal too. And she puts both hands on his arms and then her legs on his legs to pull his claws out, and does this great like jump kick, which looks really cool. But what I really like was when she puts each limb on Wolverine, it's synced with the dramatic music beat to make her feel like really badass and really dramatic. Plus a great death when she's filled with adamantium, you know, and drops of metal come out of her eyes and nose. That was that was quite badass, quite a nice touch there.
Because Wolverine has always had, like, you know, the biggest action scenes in, you know, physical fisticuffs or whatever, claw action in most of the films. And I still do have a huge soft spot for the, you know, Yuriko, Lady Deathstrike and Wolverine fight in this film. I just think it's incredible. I think it's my favourite one that he's been in. Like, even when we were talking about Logan and him fighting X-24, I still really like. And I just forgot how much I liked it until I'm watching it. Yeah. I'm like, damn, this is really good.
Have you got a favourite scene then, or shot?
So I would say one of my favourite scenes is mainly because it was a hell of a way to open the film, is the Nightcrawler attacking the president.
Yeah, that's mine as well.
Yeah. That is one hell of a way to open a movie.
Yeah, so cool.
That was absolutely phenomenal, yeah. That blew me away. And it still blows me away when you watch it again. You go, God, I can't believe they did all of this. It's just incredible.
And it still holds up, you know.
It still holds up. It still looks amazing. He's just taken down the entire security team in the White House. It's just so well done.
Yeah, directed really well. Just a brilliant, like, flowing camera. You know, before you get a real good look at him, he's gone to attack someone else. And I think my favourite bit is when Nightcrawler enters the Oval Office and we go into slow motion and he's teleporting a few times in the same shot, taking out agents with ease. It's just a brilliant flow to it.
Where it's slow motion, roundhouse kick, teleports, roundhouse kick, teleport, haymaker, like punch, teleports, throws a guy.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
Right, my score for directing, it's very good. Again, I would put it on the same bracket. Certainly the team X-Men ones, not the solo ones. The best with Days of Future Past in terms of the team X-Men films. I think the best X-Men film is Logan, I think. Yeah, I mean, the opening scene, amazing. A lot of the action is really well directed. It's just that dive stunt is just cut together too much. So it looks a tad dated, so I'll go 8.6. How about you, sir?
I could go on quite a while about, like, the action scenes, because I think we've only kind of scratched the surface. There is a lot of action in this movie.
Yeah.
There are so many scenes with so many characters, and I just think they're, like, the epitome of those characters. You're like, it's just amazing. Like Magneto's prison escape. That was fucking cool.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I always think that's cool. Mystique and her fight in the spillway. That's amazing.
I had that in directing.
Yeah, you can just keep going. There's so many really good fight scenes, like, just throughout the whole movie. And I don't think it feels like too much or it's overdone or whatever. I don't think they even outstay their welcome. It's like each fight scene feels unique and it has a particular character doing a certain thing. It's always quite interesting, you know, and, you know, Pyro as well. I mean, you just keep going on. There's a lot of cool stuff in this. Maybe like I'll go an 8.7 or something.
Nice. Right, screenplay then. The structure of this film is really interesting because the film has one giant third act for me. Like, the whole last hour of the film is at Alkali Lake. Did you notice that? You know, Stryker's underground base.
Yeah.
You know, the first hour is all these different stories connected to Stryker's plot until they all come together and have to work together to take down Stryker. And I just love the confidence in the script to have the whole second half of the film just to be taking down, well, pretty much taking down Stryker. Just makes things very simple, and you can take time with, as you said, all the action scenes. You can take time with that and really go for it. Then what's interesting is when they stop Stryker and stop Magneto. When they stop Magneto. Oh, fucking hell, how do you say
Magneto.
Magneto. It's an anime film now.
The Japanese Magneto.
Hey, I'm James Lovino, and I'm here to tell you about Alternate Sides, a movie podcast with a twist. I've worked in the film business for 2 decades, but I haven't actually seen that many movies, and this has been driving my frequent collaborator, Sam, a self-confessed film snob, crazy. So every week, while he's stuck in his car trying to avoid getting a parking ticket, thanks to New York City's alternate side parking regulations, we discuss a classic film I've finally just gotten around to seeing. Alternate Sides, a new podcast about movies, parking, and a 25-year friendship, wherever you get your podcasts.
When they stop Magneto targeting the humans and we still have 30 minutes left, the film becomes like a survival film right at the end because the dam is collapsing. You know, if they don't get out of there, they're all going to die. Which certainly makes the film even more intense and ramps up the film's stakes even more, even after the main plot is basically finished, because none of the X-Men are safe at this point, you know?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this about, like, fire sale. Like, if you've got an entire plot in one location, I think this does the same sort of thing, is always change the goal. Always change the goal of the character every couple of minutes. I think this definitely does that, where it doesn't leave you bored.
Oh, in Free Fire.
Yeah, in Free Fire. Because I was saying about that, how even now, though that's a long time in one location with one sort of setup, the goal keeps changing, and that keeps you invested, where you're not like, okay, move along. I didn't feel like that from the second half, like, move along, because I'm like, yeah, they're here to stop Stryker, but it's like, okay, we're here to stop the machine at Cerebro. Oh shit, we've got all these villains to fight, so we've got to do that. And you've got Lady Deathstrike and all these other ones. Oh, we got Cyclops to beat up. Okay. All right, we're getting to the machine. Shit, the dam's busted. Okay, we've stopped the machine. Great. Now it's going to kill all the humans. It's like, oh, fucking hell. Like, now the dam has actually exploded and we're all going to die. So it's like, the goal changes, I'm just saying. That's a very exciting thing to do. I think it would have dragged if the whole thing would be just kill Stryker or whatever, or just stop the machine, and that was it for the last hour. Then, I'm pretty sure it would drag, but it didn't because... You know.
Yeah, the goalpost keeps changing,
Yeah, the goalpost keeps changing,
I quite like the scene where Brian Cox's character, William Stryker, is talking to his son, Jason, in his ear, you know, in his very own Cerebro room. You see Charles Xavier's got the helmet on. To Charles, Stryker's words are interpreted by this little girl, and when we are on Stryker and Jason, we just hear Stryker's voice. They change perspectives really smoothly, where at first the little girl just repeats what Stryker is saying, but then the little girl just says the lines as Stryker and Jason are behind Charles's shoulder. Then at the end, Stryker just says the lines and not interpreted by the little girl. It just makes the scene more dramatic as Stryker just says the last line, "Make me proud," you know. Because you've got like an interpretation there, Bryan Singer has the opportunity to just really play with what perspectives he can use in certain lines. It's just a really great device to just play around, and I think he pitched that perfectly in that moment, just to give that great moment for Stryker at the end, where you don't need to interpret it right at the end. Just make me proud, you know, because you've already established it at the start of the scene.
Yeah,
so
I think it also makes the interaction quite personal, because you know you've got Charles in like an imaginary world, and Stryker talking to Jason, and that being interpreted, Jason talking to But then it's almost as if Stryker is talking directly to Charles. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, definitely.
you know, and I quite like that. And it's more personal because he fucking hates him. He hates mutants. He hates this guy. I think it's kind of better that you basically establish this stuff, but then you can dial it back because everybody's aware of how these rules work. So then it's like Stryker is talking to Charles. You know, Charles doesn't know that, but, you know, that was a pretty good scene. Yeah, I agree.
I really liked the little hints of what's going to happen with Jean Grey. It's just not sudden in the end, turning into the Phoenix, you know. She says right at the start to Scott, my dreams are getting worse, Scott. I keep feeling something terrible is about to happen. Then when she explodes the last missile on the jet, her eyes burn red for a moment. The same thing happens when she stops Scott's beams under the dam. And I just like how they are very little clues, but they don't distract from the main plot. But it still has like a really impactful moment when she, you know, sacrifices herself at the end.
Because it's payoff. It's just paying off stuff. They do that a lot where there's just little things introduced. Well, not little, but big, I suppose, introduced at the beginning. And then there's payoff. They do link into the main plot. But they are kind of like separate storylines. So even with another big one, you know, so you've got like Jean Grey and her premonitions that something bad is going to happen, and her power as well just increases throughout the film. And then you have like Wolverine, and he has no, you know, he's struggling. He wants to know how, you know, he lost his memory and got claws and all that stuff. And he can't find anything at Alkali Lake. He recognizes Stryker, he still doesn't know. And then I love, you know, you get payoff, you get catharsis with that, where he confronts Stryker and stuff like that.
I always remember that shot when he's coming down the tunnel and he's all naked and full of blood all over him. And I was like, bloody hell, I'm not sure you could have that shot these days.
Oh,
yeah, it's quite dark.
I mean, like on Netflix, maybe, but maybe not. It kind of ruins it for me, like X-Men Origins Wolverine, because their version of that seemed terrible. Like, like these little memory flashes that he has, they're horrific. You're like, you know, where he's going around the thing and seeing claw marks, and he's really remembering, you know, what happened to him and then how he reacted to it and all the blood and everything. That's how I like to remember that event. I think X-Men Origins Wolverine just really took a giant shit on that, because that was horrible how he escaped. That was horrible. Yeah. Very PG.
I think I blocked most of that film out, to be honest.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I don't think you should like separate that from this film.
The timeline for the X-Men universe is very messy.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I saw this guy try to explain it, and he was like, there's so many damn plot holes.
Yeah. And even with, like, the new ones with the new cast, like, going from the 60s to the 90s, like, 40 years. And they still look the same.
Exactly. You're like, okay, so let me get this straight. In about 10 years' time, so from the 90s to the 2000s, you know, X-Men 1, Michael Fassbender is going to look like that to Ian McKellen. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, the diets in the 21st century must be shit. Those characters.
He was looking good, and as soon as it's the year 2000, white hair, wrinkles.
What is in this food in this century? There's a lot of great lines in this film. Really great writing in terms of the structure and in the dialogue. Continue smoking that in here, and you'll spend the rest of your days under the belief that you're a 6-year-old girl. You do that? I'll have Jean braid your hair.
Yeah, that was good.
Too much iron in your blood. To start off that great action scene.
Yeah, I love that. Or what was it, Mystique, where she actually pumps that guy with the metal. And he's like bottoms up and just drinks the thing, and then she turns him over and puts metal in his ass and is like bottoms up.
I like the line from Pyro when they're in Iceman's family home and his mum says, "This is all my fault." And then Pyro says, "Actually, they discovered that the males are the ones who carry the mutant gene and pass it on, so it's his fault." And then points to the dad. You know, and then apparently cats like iced tea. I didn't know that. That's very odd.
Yeah, you should try that with your cat.
Yeah, that's very strange. I'm surprised he had a tongue left, because when, you know, Wolverine gets his claws out of the you know, the cat, and the cat licks the claws, then when he you know, retracts them, you hear it meow. It's like, oh, bloody hell, he cut his tongue off.
cut his goddamn face off. Yeah.
Put the knives down. I can't.
Yeah, that was good.
You are a god among insects. Never let anyone tell you different. Magneto to Pyro. That was cool.
That's a good one.
You were an animal then, you're an animal now. I just gave you claws.
Yeah.
And my favourite is from Stryker, fairly near the beginning when he's talking to Senator Kelly, and they've just left the meeting room with the president, and he says, I was piloting Black Ops missions in the jungles of North Vietnam when you were sucking on your mama's tit at Woodstock, Kelly. Don't lecture me about war. This is already a war.
Yeah.
Is that your favourite as well?
Yeah, I think that's probably my favourite.
So score for me for screenplay, I will go, I think, higher than directing, because I kind of really like the structure of the film, and I really like what you were saying, that yes, that that you have a giant third act, which I kind of really admire, but they have lots of different goals and they kind of keep changing. It just keeps the audience on edge. So I'll go like 8.7, I think. How about you, sir?
I'm going to go like 8.9.
Nice. Right, acting then. I really like the little action scene near the end where Wolverine turns into Mystique, and again the action is really slick, and I've always really enjoyed like Mystique's action style. A lot of like flips and kicks with her legs and things. It looks really cool, and at the end it's awesome where she like slides through the doors and as they're closing and just
Gives him the finger.
gives the middle finger up as she slides through the door. That was quite cool. But in the third film, I was really pissed when she loses her powers in the third film, like, and Magneto just abandons her. I was like, what are you doing? No!
Yeah, that sucked.
Such a good character.
Yeah, she is. She's absolutely incredible. She does like a bunch of... I think she's so cool in this movie. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, when she tries to sleep with Wolverine. That's weird.
She changes into like all the female characters.
Yeah, and then even Stryker. I thought that was funny. Like, what do you really want? I actually remember the DVD commentary where they were talking, the director, like Bryan Singer and what have you, they were talking, and they got to that scene, and she's changing, into Jean Grey and into Storm and Rogue and stuff. And he's like, get out. And she's like, what do you really want? And she turns into Stryker, and Bryan Singer was like, sex with Stryker?
That's a whole different movie. That's some fan fiction there.
Yeah, I thought that was quite funny.
I love the acting from James Marsden and Hugh Jackman after Jean dies. Wolverine keeps saying, like, she's gone. She's gone. And Cyclops is just shaking him, and Hugh just lets him do it. Just lets him be really aggressive with Hugh, and like Hugh doesn't know what's happening to him. He's such Wolverine is in such shock. He just lets it happen as he's staring into space like Cyclops isn't there. Really emotional stuff from both actors in that moment, really convincing. There's a great little moment from Patrick Stewart right at the end where he's about to teach a class and just looks out of the window. And it's really subtle look of astonishment. And then a student says, "Professor, is everything all right?" And Charles just turns back around with a smile on his face and just says, "Yes, I think it will be." Such a random moment, not seemingly connected to anything until you hear Jean Grey's voice, and then you see the wings in the water, and then they mess up the third film.
Yeah. They hint at her resurrection and mess it up. They messed it up twice now. But I think it's because I was so pumped for the third one, because it ends on a cliffhanger. It ends on a she's coming back as like Phoenix, and you're like, oh shit, this is crazy.
But it's such a great moment for Xavier's character, because he knows in that moment that she's back, but not the same. It's just really well done, I think, that. So my favourite performance for me is Brian Cox as Stryker. Just a really great role for him as the villain. You just can tell he's really enjoying himself in this role.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, he's got the best lines. Yeah, just brilliant. Love Brian Cox.
Yeah, no, because I was saying before, when you were talking about, the script and lines, Yeah, and you were saying all these other lines, and lots of characters have loads of lines. Brian Cox has some really amazing lines, and he delivers them great. I love when he's basically bearing his heart about like how much he hates mutants, and you can tell he despises them. Like, he's all been trying to be fun and games and a bit sarcastic most of the time, but he truly hates them, like, with a passion. And he tells that story about how his son, who's a mutant, is responsible for his wife's death. And he's very pissed off. He's very distraught. It's like, and I like that line of he brings in his son, who's now like this experiment to mind control mutants. And he's like, "What have you done to your son? This is your son." He's like, "No, Charles, my son is dead, just like the rest of you." And he just storms off.
Yeah, really great, subtle performance in times, and really intimidating at times as well. Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite performance as well, or?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think William Stryker definitely stands out to me as it's just like one of the best. And I don't think, because they've recast him so many times now, and I still really pine for Brian Cox in the part. It's like, I don't think any of these other guys can touch him.
No. So my score for acting, I will go... I think the standouts are Hugh Jackman again. I mean, he's always good in all of the films we've picked from him. Our sixth one now.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, they're amazing in all the films that they've done for me. So I will go like 8.5. How about you, sir?
Yeah. I'll go 8.6.
Right, let's add up the scores then for X2, X-Men United. X2 gets exactly 52 points. It is a good score. All right, my pick then is The Incredibles, one of Pixar's finest films, I would say. Not sure I'd put it in my top 5, but it's definitely in the top 10, I would say.
It is a good one.
Why did I pick this one? Well, there was a lot to choose from, and we had done a few already. Like, I'd picked Guardians of the Galaxy already. I probably would have picked that one if we hadn't picked that already for comic book team films. So that was probably my go-to one. And there's the obvious, like, Avengers films. They're all amazing, but I think there's so much content about those films out there. And also, I didn't want to, like, admit that Boaz doesn't have a heart because he didn't cry at the end of Endgame, so that wouldn't be good for you.
I don't cry at the end of anything, man. I rarely cry. I don't even think I can cry.
Heart of stone.
Yeah. I think I lost my tear ducts in the war.
Oh, right. In the war. The mutant war.
The mutant war. The great mutant
war. Boaz is secretly a mutant.
Actually, that would be funny if I was involved in X2. And so, like, I'm Boaz Dix, and I joined in the fight against Brian Cox. Cox versus Dix.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I just had to.
That is a very different movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's X-rated. Those titles, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not reading your fan fiction. God no.
You will be appalled and disgusted.
Cox versus Dix. My god. So when I, did my Google search for comic book team films, and when I saw Incredibles, I was like, yeah, definitely, let's pick that one. This is awesome. Yeah, so what happens in The Incredibles? Well, we start with these great interviews, which are really interesting, but the film starts proper in this kind of like 40s style era, a world of superheroes and supervillains where crime seems to be happening everywhere. And Mr. Incredible saves this guy trying to commit suicide through this building. He tries to stop Bon Voyage, who tries to blow up the building, and he gets away because of his number one fan. All of a sudden, the guy that he actually saved sues Mr. Incredible, and then there's kind of this snowball effect where this great newsreel footage where literally all these superheroes keep getting sued. So then we kind of go several years later where all these superheroes are like living among normal people. They've all been relocated and can't use they have to hide their superpowers. So Mr. Incredible ends up with like a normal job in an insurance company, in like a big office building. But then one day he gets a secret message delivered to his home, and it's about they need his help to take down this robot and test it out, test its weaknesses or whatever. And then so he pretends that he's going on these conferences and he keeps battling this robot. But then Mr. Incredible soon finds out that Syndrome was behind all this, and he has a James Bond,
his arch nemesis.
Yeah, a James Bond style plot to fly this robot over to the mainland in America and make it look like Syndrome is the hero by defeating the robot. So then he can become the leader of the new superhero era, if you like.
We basically had all the previous superheroes murdered.
Yeah.
And there's only really the the Pars and Frozone that are left.
Yeah. So then Helen Parr finds out through his homing beacon from the amazing Edna Mode. And then her kids stow away and they join the fight with Mr. Incredible and take down Syndrome. And then the Underminer at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really cool like superhero story. Nothing we've kind of seen before in a superhero genre. A really nice spin on it. I love the elements with Bond as well. That was really nice. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, man, I do have a soft spot for it. I think it's great, and it's one of those ones that it's it's done by Pixar. I mean, they do amazing stuff anyway. It was entertaining. It's fun. It's lots of action. It's pretty heartfelt.
Yeah.
I do like, as you said, like it's not just the superhero stuff, but the spy stuff, and it's just a really well done film. And it's kind of interesting because it's not really based on a prior intellectual property like most of the other things we talk about. Like they used to be something else at some point. But Pixar has the clout where they can just make up. I mean, they do frequently just make up ideas, and they're always hits. So it's no exception.
I feel like the golden era. I think some of the films now are okay.
Yeah, I think they're launching a lot of okays.
Well, more than okay, they're really good. But I mean, this one, along with a lot of other ones in the noughties era, that decade was just masterful films. So good. Your Toy Stories and Wall-E, Up, Inside Out, stuff like that. Just really great stuff. All right, directing then for The Incredibles. I think the first fight with Mr. Incredible he has with the robot is really cool. I like the design of the robot because it has this very like cartoony design where it's just like a ball with four arms and he kind of just flings his arms around. That was quite a nice way to animate the robot, which fits really well with the tone of the film. And I like the bit where Mr. Incredible gets a pain in his back and then the robot tries to tear him in two and just ends up cracking his back straight, which helps him defeat the robot, which is, really creative, funny storytelling. Plus, I love the way Mr. Incredible's suit is too small for him and is just bulging out of it, which is kind of a nice, funny detail.
Yeah. There's so many funny things about like his weight, how he's basically got a dad bod because he's a dad now, and back then he was like he was like Arnie, now he's like Arnie. yeah,
Arnie of today.
But yeah, I like the scene where
I mean that's a bit harsh.
Yeah, that is a bit harsh. It's a bit uncalled for. He could still kick my ass, so I better just I better be very careful.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that bit where he's gonna get shot out from the rocket, and he's put in, and the guy keeps pressing the button, and he just won't fit through the damn pod. It's like, yeah.
I love how this film combines like superhero elements with James Bond elements in the story and design. I love the design of Syndrome's secret island. The jet Mr. Incredible is in goes underwater into this secret entrance, and all the water drains out while he's eating prawns. They travel across the island in a monorail, and this massive waterfall just opens up. Mr. Incredible is shown to his room just like a 60s Bond movie, Love it. When Mr. Incredible is sneaking around at night and rides the monorail, it's just like You Only Live Twice. There's even some trumpet music cues straight out of an early Bond film, and the shot where the monorail car takes out the guards, where Mr. Incredible just throws it from a distance, and it's backlit by the moon. It's just a really nice shot there. There's a nice little sequence.
Yeah.
It certainly is a strong homage to, early Bond films for me, and not just superhero films.
Yeah. It just kind of reminds me as well, like, of really early, like, Superman cartoons in, like, the 40s and stuff, because of the whole sort of Art Deco.
Oh, yeah.
The sort of Art Deco look of everything. Yeah, but, that's just kind of a design thing, just how the fashion of the time and how, like, buildings are designed and how interiors are designed.
Yeah.
Just reminds me of that kind of stuff.
I really like the little scene where Mr. Incredible gets caught in the main control room, where lots of these cannons emerge on the walls and fire this black goo that expands on Mr. Incredible as he tries to escape. It's just a really creative way to stop someone like Mr. Incredible. Yeah. Plus, I love how the cutting of the scene gets quicker and quicker to almost a blur between the shots of cannons firing and shots of Mr. Incredible's face. Then there's a great POV shot of the black stuff like slowly blocking his vision. Just really dramatic and creative visuals. I've never really... Yeah, it's just a really great scene there. Just really clever.
Yeah, I agree. That was an amazing sequence. And yeah, as you've said, firing the cannons on him. Because it slows up at first. The cannons come out and you're like, what is going on? And, the music starts. And he gets fired by one of the cannons. It starts to expand. And then it starts to cut faster and faster, where it's like the cannons, him running, the cannons, him getting encased, cannons, him getting covered, cannons, cannons. And then he's like, ah! Like that. They just go over his face. And it does make it incredibly tense. It's just how it's cut together.
I love Elastigirl in this film. I forgot to say at the start. This is basically the best Fantastic Four film we've had to date, I think.
I agree with you.
Pretty much. And they use Elastigirl so well, so creatively in the action, and it's funny as well. I love the little action scene where Elastigirl's leg, main body, and arm gets stuck in 3 different doorways on the base.
That was good.
And her hand has to like feel the goon's chin before punching him in the face. That's funny. Like a goon pokes her leg and like, what the hell is this? Then just kicks the goon. And her body clotheslines 2 goons on a vehicle. That was great. Again, just really creative action and making it funny.
Her ass smushes 2 other goons when her leg is unlocked and bang. Lucky goons. Yeah.
And I feel like Brad Bird and co have really thought about how they can use their powers creatively in this animated story. And being an animated film, certainly in individual moments with the characters, they've really thought about how they can use these characters in this animated world, where you can get away with so much more.
I would say one of my favorite, if not favorite, sequences is Dash. Is when Dash goes as fast as he can. That whole sequence was incredible with the running on the water and
that's my
it
favorite.
was amazing. It was just amazing. I still get chills whenever I see that scene. Yeah, because even talking about it, how the music is set up and everything for that scene, it looks visually incredible. He's running away. There's a real sense of danger. He's even getting hit, which is crazy. These guys are even punching Dash. And shooting at him, and I just love when he runs on water. That is just such an incredible moment because he's running.
Yeah.
There's water. There's these guys, and then the music just kind of cuts out, and he realizes, oh shit, I can run on water, and then the music comes back in again, like much harder than before, and you're like, whoa, this is incredible.
Because he's being chased by goons in these like flying razor blade hovercraft thingies, and the action is so dynamic and thrilling because the camera is going so quickly and staying with the characters while the environments around them are going lightning fast. I think you can only really achieve this in animation. It's like you're on a roller coaster in that scene at some points.
Yeah.
Not to say you can't do this in live action, because it did remind me a bit of Return of the Jedi with the speeder bikes sequence. So, because they use a lot of undercranking there and then playing it at normal speed. So yeah, that's my favorite scene as well.
I think all the action scenes, even before and after that, are really great. And even the big one with the robot in the city is amazing. It's a big set piece. I think they did a good job. But I don't think anything can beat like just the Dash scene in. It's so exciting, and I think also because it's from his point of view constantly, you're getting the world just rush by. It's like, yeah, as you said, it does feel like it's a roller coaster when he's. Yeah, that was really good, and I love the bit where so he's running, and even how that sequence ends, where they have him cornered and he doesn't know what to do, so he just stays still, and you think, he's screwed. And then you realise, when he's running, that's when he can actually stay on water, so he just sinks beneath the waves, and the ships just collide into each other rather than hit him. Yeah, that was great. Whoever designed that action scene.
Yeah, that was fun. I love how creative the action is in terms of how the family work together to solve problems and to fight the bad guys. There's a great bit after the jet explodes and they're in the water and Elastigirl makes herself into like a boat and Dash kicks his legs in the water, creating like a living speedboat. Yeah, while poor Vi is just like sat in the middle getting cold. But I feel like in the last fight, the whole family and Frozone, when they fight the robot, it's really cool in individual moments. I mean, I think the creativity just isn't as good when they work together. Very few moments when that happens, when they work together. It's more like characters are saving each other rather than working together.
I get you there. Vi is holding a shield to protect Dash, or Dash is running around to find the remote, or, Bob is beating up the robot, or, Helen is throwing stuff at the robot with her elastic powers and Frozen. But yeah, I do get you. They're all separate. I wish there were more moments like, as you said, the speedboat one, but also, where Dash and Violet, like, she makes a force field and he runs with her to have this like hamster wheel force. It's like, that was awesome.
Yeah, they could have incorporated something like that.
Yeah, I think they should have done way more of those kind of team moves at the last fight. I do agree. There are just very few where you're like, whoa, that's cool. But they happen way before the finale, and then the finale, they're just going at it individually.
Yeah, not to say they don't work together at all. There are fleeting moments, like, yes, I said the speedboat bit, and like right at the end where Mr. Incredible literally throws Elastigirl to Syndrome.
Oh, yeah, it's like a javelin. Yeah, that was good.
But yeah, they could have had, like, Dash in the force field that Vi is creating and then, like, use Elastigirl like a slingshot or something.
That would be cool.
That would have been cool to get onto the top of the robot and do something like that. It's a shame because you don't have limitations in this world. It's an animated film. You can do what the hell you want. Whereas in, like, X-Men 2, there are limitations a little bit. Whereas I think the best action scene where these teams work together is in X-Men 2 and not in this film, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I agree with that, actually.
I would say. So, it just makes me really want to see Incredibles 2 again to see if that sort of thing is better. I don't know. I think I've only seen that film once, so I need to revisit that.
Yeah, I've only watched that one. I've watched Incredibles a lot. I've only watched Incredibles 2 once.
So, directing score, what are you going with, Boaz?
I think it's visually very nice to look at. And it does have this sort of timeless, like old-timey but timeless feel to it. And it's very colourful and it's fun and stuff. Oh, God. Maybe like an 8.2? No,
okay.
I don't know. That's a bit strict, isn't it? That is a bit strict. I'm not sure where to put it, really. I'll give it an 8.5. 8.5.
Yeah, I think I'll still go with the 8. I might go 8.4 because this whole thing in when we were talking about Hot Fuzz is kind of stuck in my head a little bit, where the best action scenes are at the end, where again this Incredibles unfortunately falls into the trap.
It's in the middle.
It's not at the end. It's with Dash. Dash is the scene.
I would say Dash is the MVP. He's the most valuable player, and that scene with Dash, it's so weird that in The Incredibles, and there are great action scenes, and there's great stuff with Bob, and there's great stuff with Helen. We've talked about those things, and with the family. But you're like, that Dash scene should not be as good as it is. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And you think the last fight is nowhere near that, and you're like, oh man. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Just like what we said in Hot Fuzz, like they did it perfect of having the best action scene, the best choreographed stuff at the end.
Right, screenplay then for Fantastic Four.
yeah.
Alternative film. I really enjoyed the opening interviews of Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, and Frozone. It kind of makes the world and characters feel so much more real and brings more detail and nuance to the world. And I like how Mr. Incredible thinks the interview has finished at one point and tries to walk off and take his microphone off and then cut to another question. I thought that was genius. It just brings a weird realism to it, even though it's Pixar. I think it draws you in immediately, forgetting it's animated in a way. It's just a really cool opening. I really like that. I love how the opening scenes play out. It's a great action sequence, you know, where Mr. Incredible saves a guy trying to kill himself, and then Mr. Incredible tries to apprehend Bon Voyage. But he escapes because his number one fan, what does he call himself as a kid?
Incrediboy.
Incrediboy, yeah. As Incrediboy. And you think the rest of the film was about trying to catch this French dude. But no, the guy trying to kill himself sues Mr. Incredible. Yeah. And it just snowballs from there in this brilliant, like, black and white 40s new style reel reveals that all the superheroes have to be relocated and live a normal life. And it's such a brilliant idea to set up your film, completely unexpected and very plausible if this was real, because of all the bureaucracy we have now. A Man of Steel 2 should have been this film, realistically. Or, you know, BVS.
Yeah, 100%.
Literally everyone suing Superman.
For hundreds of millions.
Pretty much.
Which he can't afford on a reporter's salary. Yeah, I quite like the trajectory of the film, because it's mostly on Bob, and just the fact that he is not happy with his life. He just feels bored. He is just underappreciated. He misses the glory days. The film is basically an arc of he doesn't really know what he's got until the end, because it's like he had these glory days and he still keeps trying to capture this, and he hates his life now. He just hates everything. Then he gets into this mission of being a superhero again. It turns out it's for Syndrome. And then when he thinks his family is dead, it's like, no, they were the most important thing. None of this shit mattered. It was your family. That's what you should have been focusing on. Yeah. And so I think it had quite a good message. One of, like, you know, family is important. It's very important. But two, it's you know, if you are kind of amazing, you shouldn't have to hide it. You know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
You shouldn't have to hide who you are.
Because certainly the opening seems, it kind of plays out like with the family dynamics that they're all really frustrated that they can't be themselves. Just in this film, they can't use their superpowers. And Helen Parr, played by Holly Hunter, the mother, is trying to keep the family together. Dash gets sent to the head teacher's office. You know, Helen has to deal with that. There's a family argument at the dinner table where Dash is making fun of Violet because of a boy she likes. It's just like all normal stuff like you would expect in a family drama, but they're superheroes.
I like when they're having the fight over it.
Yeah, just very normal family issues. But it makes the film really relatable and makes you really care about these characters. You know, towards the end when they're, you know, where they are in jeopardy. Even when Helen and the kids are in the thick of it in the story on the plane, and she has to phone the babysitter to check that Jack is okay and tries to send the sitter home and get a new one from a service. The family dynamics are always there throughout the whole of the film, definitely. You know. All very, like, family issues from minute one to the end, you know. I
like when even they're in the rocket. Do you remember that? Helen is holding the damn minivan onto the rocket. And Dash is like, are we there yet? He's like, we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, I quote that sometimes. We get there when we get there.
I love that.
How you doing, honey?
Do I have to answer?
Do I have to answer?
I like also when they're arguing on the freeway. We take the left junction. No, you take the right junction.
Yeah, some great lines right at the start in the interviews from Mr. Incredible. Sometimes I just want it to stay saved, you know, just for a little bit. I feel like a maid. I just clean up this mess. Can we keep it clean for 10 minutes? The way Mr. Incredible says, showtime. I quote that a lot.
Yeah, showtime. That's a good one.
Tell me where my suit is, woman. We are talking about the greater good.
I'm your wife. I'm the greatest good you ever gonna get.
Yeah. You didn't save my life. You ruined my death. My client has no comment at this time.
Oh, I love... so when he gets fired, That is amazing. That scene is great. Yeah, his boss is a complete bastard because he's trying to help people that come to, for insurance and stuff.
Yeah.
I like that scene actually where you first see him with the time jump and he's at the office and he's bored to tears. And he's saying to the old woman that they can't cover her, their insurance can't cover her. And she's crying, what do I do? And then he gives her a pen and paper. I can't help you, ma'am. I really wish I could. If I would tell you to go see this woman and fill out this form and then do this and then do that. But I can't. I'm sorry. It's sorry, ma'am, I can't help you. Pretend to cry, that was great. But yeah, and then he throws his boss through several walls. That was fucking awesome. That is the most badass way to quit your job or to get fired.
Yeah, to get fired.
Don't we wish we all could do that? Just grab your boss and throw him through several walls.
Yes. Yeah, there's so many good lines. Nice of you to drop by. Never heard that one before. And my favourite character by far is Edna Mode. My God, you've gotten fat. Come in, come. This is a hobo suit, darling. You can't be seen in this. I want to know.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
Completely bulletproof and machine washable, darling. That's a new feature.
And of course, no caps. Which has become an internet meme now. It's everywhere. I think it's the only thing people remember.
No caps. That is my favourite.
Did you see that video of this was years ago where Madonna fell off stage? She tripped off her cape. She had this huge cape and fell down the stairs. And this guy just put Edna Mode there. No capes. It's just incredible. It's an incredible thing.
Brilliant. Oh God. That is so funny. Where was I? Oh yeah. Helen says to Edna, Jack doesn't have any powers. No? Well, he'll look fabulous anyway. There's a good one from Syndrome. You married Elastigirl? Whoa, and got busy.
Yeah, I think Syndrome is an underrated character in this. He's pretty damn funny. Well, do you remember, because they keep talking before as well about how villains are so stupid that they monologue. Do you remember that, where he's talking to Frozone? He's like, he literally had me in his grasp, and he's monologuing about how I'm so much weaker than him and stuff. But I like how Incredible is buddy, and then he gets him to monologue, and he's explaining how he became a supervillain. And then Incredible just throws a tree at him. He's like, you caught me monologuing, you sly dog,
Oh, yeah. That was brilliant. Screenplay score then, Barrows, what are you going for?
I'm not sure if I like it more than the directing. It's possible I do, because I can quote the hell out of this film. Yeah, 8.8 maybe?
Yeah, I think I'll go the same, to be honest. And as you said right at the start of this, that this is not based on an IP at all. This is all original stuff, even though it is kind of the best Fantastic Four movie. But just the way it goes, the whole time jump thing is genius. I've never seen that before in a superhero live action film. Yeah, just brilliant stuff. Again, as you said, so quotable. So I think I'll go the same, actually, 8.8. Right, voice acting then. I love Wallace Shawn as Gilbert Hugh, the manager of the insurance company. Yeah. He's, brilliant when Bob is called into his office. You kind of touched on it a little bit for the second time. The way he goes from being really irritable, irritating, and then being really patronizing is amazing. And, he's kind of really angry at moments as well. Such a brilliant voice for an animated film. So unique. I feel like Pixar really take care in what voices they want to hear in their films. I think that it's brilliant. This is certainly one of them. Also, the character, the middleman character that has to relocate Mr. Incredible, just a really nice, soft voice. Just a really great voice for that character. It just suits that character so well. Definitely. And of course, I absolutely love Brad Bird's performance as Edna Mode, who is the director of this film, by the way, who voices Edna.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Nice. I was like, really? Awesome.
That's surprising. I can't believe I didn't know that.
Just this amazing, sassy supermodel fashion designer darling who calls everyone darling and completely dominates every conversation. I just love the scene where she's talking about the new suits, the new super suits, like it's high fashion. Just really hilarious voice that, again, suits animation so well in this tiny character. And I think if this voice was in live action, it would just be so off-putting and it just wouldn't work. But in an animated film like this, it works so beautifully. It's by far the best character for me.
Yeah, I think she's amazing.
And all the best. My favourite scenes are with her, for me. My favourite scenes are with her.
I love when Helen is, like, crying because she realizes Bob is, like, on some fucking island somewhere in the Pacific.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, what did I do? Why didn't I see? He's like, what do you do? Is this a question? You are Elastigirl! And she picks up a roll of newspaper and hits her on the head. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My favourite performance is Brad Bird as Edna Mode. What is yours?
I think she would be, like, my second. I think I would give it to Mr. Incredible. And then maybe Edna Mode as a very close second.
Craig T. Nelson, who plays Mr. Incredible.
I'd put him as my first, and then her as my second, yeah.
Oh, okay. Wrong, but fine. So, what's your score going to be for voice acting?
I'll go 8.8 again.
Really? Oh, okay. That's very high. Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about this before, but it's nice to talk about it again. It certainly takes an awful lot of effort for actors using their voices in such, like, strenuous ways for animated films. They have to do it over and over again, and certainly directors have to work around the voice performances. So it's always really important to get those performances right for the director. So it does take an awful lot of skill, I would say, certainly in the variations of moods. And because, these characters are so larger than life, the actors have to be so larger than life with their voices. With the insurance manager and lots of the characters, they have to go from, like, anger to sadness, like, really quickly. I know they have lots of time in between, but it can be really challenging. But they're only using their voices; they're not using their whole bodies in these films. So I'll go like an 8.1, I think. Right, let's add up the scores then for The Incredibles. The Incredibles gets 51.4. So this week, X2 wins with 52. So very, very tight.
Do you know, I just realised something. I realised this a minute ago. But X2 gets 52. X2 has a 2 in it. It ends in 2. So X2 gets 52. And 5 times 2 is 10. And the Roman numeral for 10 is an X. Am I clutching at straws? Yeah. No.
My God. Boaz Dix is a great clutcher of straws, people.
I have finally lost my mind. I think I've been doing this way too long.
Yeah. My God. He's found his X-Men power. Clutching at straws.
The clutchy dicks.
The useless Statman. Yeah. I want him in the next Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah. I just make the villain just kill himself, because he's like, what are you talking about?
So X-Men 2 comes in at joint 23rd place with Miller's Crossing, and The Incredibles comes joint 26th with Call Me By Your Name and Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's an interesting company.
So next week, we are not actually going to be relating our subject to a film release. We're actually going to relate it to Remembrance Day. So our subject for next week will be war films. And I think it's always really important to realise that films aren't always just about entertainment. It can be so much more than that. And war films in particular are such a great way to experience what our fallen heroes went through throughout history and all the wars that have unfortunately had to happen in our history. So certainly a really important subject that I want to have a look at. So we'll be picking our favourite war films for next week. And of course, as you may know already, we have a Buy Me a Coffee account. So if you look in our show notes below, you can click on the link, and if you want to show your appreciation and say a big thank you, you can buy us a coffee, and it'll be really, really nice. Thank you very much. Boaz, you have been incredible. is the only word, really,
Nice.
for this week.
You have been X-Men United. I don't know.
All right. Bye-bye. That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to find out more about the podcast or suggest future topics for us to discuss related to upcoming releases, let us know on Instagram at Film vs. Film Podcast and on Twitter at FVF_podcast. Remember, please subscribe. Pod signing off.